So, should the Kwacha be devalued again? Today, we're going to be reacting to the International Monetary Fund report that was produced recently and how the IMF is actually recommending a few things. Akutuuza kuti tipange devalue Kwacha another time. Okay. So, will the Kwacha devalue after the elections? That's what we want to analyze today. We want to see how life is going to be in the near future. So, I'm going to go through some of the things that the report said, and then I'm going to talk about how every Malawian is actually thinking at this point. Because, truth be told, life is not easy background. You understand what I'm saying? Like, life is not easy. Things are tough. And today we're going to maybe to have a heart-to-heart talk together and see how far it takes us. So I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you like the video and also subscribe to the channel. Let us dive into this. Now, the International Monetary Fund, actually here, it says that has painted a bleak picture of Malawi's economy, pointing out major problems such as high inflation, 27%, massive public debt, 88% of GDP is actually debt. We are not okay, guys. Okay, slow economic growth, yeah, and extremely low foreign exchange reserves. Don't tell us that, you're preaching to the choir. Yeah, we don't have forex, people. Okay, now enough for less than a week's worth of imports. Do you understand that? Our forex is enough for less than a week's worth of imports. That's bad. Okay, as a result, the IMF has ended its loan program with Malawi, cutting off further financial support. The IMF is now urging the government to, number one, this is what they're saying we should do, raise more domestic revenue through taxes. So the IMF is recommending that taxes be raised again. Are you hearing what I'm saying? Taxes be raised again. Number two, cut unnecessary public spending. Is that going to happen? Because right now, it seems that Chakwera is just taking trips anyhow. Okay? So is the government spending going to go down? That's what the IMF is saying. Cut unnecessary public spending. Then number three says, allow the Kwacha to float more freely, which could lead to further what? Devaluation. They're saying we should devalue the Kwacha again. Then the other thing is improve debt and corruption controls. Okay, is that corruption controls. Okay, let's continue reading. It says, while these recommendations are aimed at stabilizing the economy, they may worsen life for ordinary Malawians. Now, let us have a heart-to-heart, guys. Let's talk about how is this going to affect us. If the IMF, whatever they're desiring, was actually implemented, how is life going to look like? Is this feasible? Let's look at the next page. It says that while these recommendations are aimed at stabilizing the economy, to be honest, they may worsen life for ordinary Malawians. How? Number one, more taxes. Many Malawians are already struggling with high cost of living. Increasing taxes or introducing new ones would place even more pressure on households and small businesses. Because the people who are actually going to get taxed are a very small population in Malawi. And if you raise the taxes, again, because right now, if you talk about civil servants, the payee, my friend, the payee is big. Okay? You talk about groceries that we buy, VAT, all those things. You talk about car imports. All I'm saying is more taxes is what is going to happen if we actually obliged with what the IMF is actually saying. Number two, it says cutting government spending. Is that going to happen? Chakwera has failed to do this. Every time he's spending, like just goes through the roof. Are you hearing what I'm saying here? Okay, so the other thing is, okay, so on cutting government spending, it says if done carelessly, this could reduce funding for essential services like healthcare. If done carelessly, this could reduce funding for essential services like healthcare, education, and fertilizer subsidies, which many citizens depend on. Okay, what they're telling us here, if you cut government spending, okay, and it is done carelessly, that means we cut essential services instead of these unnecessary trips. What will happen is we'll have less of the free services that will actually depend on right now as Malawians. Okay, healthcare will become expensive, education will become expensive, fertilizer subsidies will be nowhere to be seen. All I'm saying is these politicians, I don't think they will even consider cutting government spending. Why? Because they're benefiting. They're making their pockets full by the minute. Okay. But I'm going to show you what Bingu actually said concerning this. The thinking is different. Now, he says that further devaluation of the Kwacha, that's what they're recommending again. Recent devaluations have already caused food, fuel, and transport prices to soar. Another devaluation without support for low-income earners would make things even harder for the average Malawian. Come on. You devalue the Kwacha again. What is happening is goods and services are rising again. Who knows? Maybe this is what the politicians are waiting for. Once they get into power, they devalue the Kwacha again, and we're in trouble. Okay? Now, they're saying the other thing is fighting corruption and fixing debt. These are necessary reforms, but they take time and political will. Without strong reinforcement, these ideas could remain just talk. To be honest, do I believe that corruption will be over for good in Malawi? No. Will there be like debt fixing? Can it really happen? I don't think so, because the budget keeps on becoming bigger and bigger every time. So I don't think there's going to be debt reform, and it takes time and also the willingness of the politicians themselves to make the condition better. Okay, the conditions better. But I don't think they're going to do that because they're just so greedy, you know? So let's look at the final part. It says, in short, while the IMF advice is meant to fix the economy, it risks causing more pain for ordinary Malawians if it is not implemented with care, fairness, and strong social protection for the poor. What Malawi really needs is a balanced approach, one that fights corruption, supports local production, protects vulnerable people and grows the economy from the ground up. So what you're saying here is that the IMF is actually recommending things that make sense to them, but it doesn't make sense for the ordinary Malawian. Because at the end of the day, if you make just unnecessary changes like this, what will happen is the ordinary person is the one who suffers. Now, I want you to see what Bingu actually said regarding devaluations. Let's listen to this.
Is this still your viewpoint?
The shortage of foreign exchange is not because that the Kwacha is not valued. In fact, people are saying overvalued. And I've asked economists to tell me what is the correct value, because then above that is overvalued, below that is devalued. What is the correct? They don't say. These are things we put in economic textbooks. They are saying if we devalue the Kwacha, then we make our exports competitive. Which exports? Tobacco is never affected by the Kwacha. You can devalue anything, it will not be affected. Tea is not affected, they are fixed markets. Cotton is not affected. So, you devalue the Kwacha, who benefits? The day you devalue the Kwacha, the price of everything, oil, matches, everything will go up for the ordinary person. Even tomatoes, the price will go up. Even onions will go up. So the inflation goes up. And I'm saying that the IMF has a contradiction in their minds. They don't know what they're talking about. They talk about macroeconomic stability. What is stability? Stability is a level. The moment you take one of the parameters and devalue, that stability is disturbed. Because then inflation comes in. And they're saying they're for macroeconomics. So I don't know what kind of economics are at the IMF. Yeah. And I'm ready to meet them, to tell me. I want one person to tell me one good reason or one advantage that will accrue to Malawi for devaluation. Nobody is. So, you see, how you make your exports competitive. Perhaps
Which exports?
10 years from now, if you have a range of products that we are manufacturing that are going on the international market, perhaps then the case of devaluation will make sense. But at the same time, have you ever heard the Americans, the British, the Germans, the French, the Chinese, the Japanese devaluing? When did you hear them devaluing their currencies? Okay. But they're asking us to devalue. They themselves don't devalue. I don't know. So I'm just keeping my ground, and really until someone convinces me, Kwacha will not devalue.
Wow. That's what Bingo said. But for some reason, our government right now can't wait for the next opportunity to devalue. All I'm saying is, anything can happen after the elections, man. If you ask me, I think we need to brace ourselves for changes in prices, changes in just livelihood in general. The cost of living will go up again. So I really hope these leaders, especially the ones we're going to elect this time, maybe they think of the good of the Malawians more than they think about themselves. Man, let's continue to pray for the nation, man. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, have a good one.